we are currently working on the feedback request of the European Commission. It's within this better regulation agenda. The consultation closes tomorrow, so I'm going back tonight to London to submit. We're working jointly with ISTA because there is a big overlap, and we're concentrating in our response as well more on ESMA and key areas of our response, focus on governance, funding, regulatory forbearance is a very important aspect of our response, third country equivalence, and also fintech. And we had on this response significant engagement with our membership, so that's why also it took us quite some time, and that's why we're still working on it. And also we're working on a legal analysis for the Commission or the ESAs, looking into regulatory forbearance, what are the possibilities, because that has always been, and for a very long time, a criticism, the lack of flexibility in the European system. I move then to the next slide. FI members welcome the Commission proposals in many aspects and believe that increased supervisory conversion will help and deepen capital markets. Their members do see that there is an opportunity to increase efficiency and competitiveness of European market, but it is also very important for our members in that proposal to recognize that any consideration to expand ESMA's direct supervisory powers should respect the subsidiarity principle. I think this is with in common with Herr Klinz, and would first require in-depth assessment, including corresponding cost-benefit analyses, and ideally also preceding consultation of concerned entities. We also do believe that on a national level, the value of supervision by national authorities should be recognized, given their strong knowledge of local markets. We have a quite intensive relationship with BaFin, the AMF, the AFM. There is significant knowledge of their local markets, and also not all markets are actually working in the same way. So that's why the value of supervision of national authorities should be an important aspect, as they understand the operations of their markets more than anyone. For benchmarks, there is clear support of FI and ISTA members to support direct supervisory powers for ESMA for pan-European critical Iva benchmarks. We had a bit of a longer debate on this topic, but national competent authorities should retain the supervisory authorities over benchmark at a national level, and also retain the ability to determine which local benchmarks are critical. On MiFIR data reporting, and I picked just a few, on MiFIR data reporting services, members feel as well that maybe this is a bit too early at this time to move into ESMA direct supervisory powers here, especially as MiFID II just came into effect on the 3rd of January. And also because there is a new reporting consultation that the Commission is looking at again, on EMIR reporting, MiFIR reporting. Some our members told us maybe it's better to await actually the outcome of this consultation before moving here to direct supervisory powers. On prospectuses, it was a no from our members. They feel that that it is an efficient process in place, and they would like to keep this approvals of powers would like to keep that as at the national level. So on governance, very clear that clear responsibilities and effective supervision, rules for decision making and procedures should avoid redundancies and should allow for efficient processes with regards to market participants. And this is especially times when it comes to market stress situations, so that should the decision makers bear in mind when finalizing the governance structure. They should provide for independent objective supervisors that avoid ad hoc arbitrary objectives or a subjective action, and of course ESA should accountable to legislators, but should be operationally independent. In the governance section, we support the proposal for the introduction of an independent executive board with full-time members that should replace the current management board. We just really think that the proposal should provide further clarification what the role of the full-time members of the executive board will be in the management of the ESAs. And we also think that the proposed executive board needs to be clarified versus the proposals in the EMEA Part 2.2, the CCP executive session. In general, I think there is, for the governance section, that there is some further room for clarification also versus the CCP recovery resolution, how the supervision parts will be dealt with in those files. On funding, it is good news. The FI membership they support the funding part of the proposal with, of course, a few remarks how it should be done. But we do think that a good regulator should have sufficient funding. But also it should come together with actually an increased provision of services as well. So there was a very long debate around this topic actually, that funding, yes, but then it should come together as well with good engagement. So our members are used to in very intensive debate with their national regulators, and I think that is something that the ESAs will have to develop further. Our members also think that the fees should be allocated fairly across the regulated population. This is again an important point. They feel it would be inappropriate to carve out specific categories of entities just because they are smaller, so they don't want to see that. And again, increased accountability for ESMA to its stakeholders, that is a very strong aspect of our response. Which is related actually to the next point, where we had intensive debates with our members on that it is very important for them that they see this proposal basically as a step change in the approach to consultation by the ESAs, with increased transparency of the policy decision process that should also come together with robust information sharing. And there are a couple of areas, and increased engagement between the ESAs in the industry, and a need to instill a soft consultation approach at the ESAs. Are we good in time?
If you can
sum it up soon, I will. And another point that we debated as well with our membership is that there sits an awful lot of expertise actually in the United Kingdom, as financial markets sit in the UK. So there is also the recommendation of our members that the ESA should continue to be able to employ UK experts and international experts, and I believe there is room for discretion so that they have the widest room available actually for to the talent pool. Which brings me to the last slide, but we have a few other areas as well. So this was, again, and for a few years now, it is an important debate that the lack of flexibility in the EU rulemaking process. So we, in our last response to the Commission feedback request in May, we advised that this is something that should be available, and but the Commission did not propose anything. There was big disappointment in that there is no regulatory forbearance tool, and that's why we worked together with Norton Rose, who is in Anna is in the room, who worked on the analysis, and together with other 5 trade associations on an analysis what can be done. So we think the ESAs require clearly defined limited powers to exercise regulatory forbearance in respect of persons they supervise directly, and to safeguard the ESFS where it is appropriately for NCAs to exercise regulatory forbearance. So that would be for the credit rating agencies and TRs. So formally empower ESMA to exercise regulatory forbearance. And persons subject to indirect supervision empower ESMA to direct NCAs to exercise regulatory forbearance. And we are also in favor of facilitating further change to primary and secondary legislation. This is all in the analysis that will be shared with the Commission tomorrow, and it should foster a debate about what can we achieve. So then I will leave it here, and thank you very much.